Our guest today is one of the students at the heart of the anti-Semitism controversy playing out at Bristol University. Sabrina Miller, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, first of all, I imagine there's been a lot of stress put on you in this whole situation. How are you holding up?
Yeah, it's not been too bad. I have a lot of good support from the Jewish community. My flatmates have also been incredibly supportive, so it's been all right given the circumstances.
I'm pleased to hear it. Now, you wrote an article entitled, "I'm tired of waiting for my university to act against conspiratorial hatred." Can you give us the background of that, please?
Of course. So 2 years ago, I was campaigns officer for Bristol JSOC, and a Jewish student came to the Bristol JSOC committee and said they'd been in a lecture in Professor Miller's Harms Against the Powerful module, where he accused Zionism of being one of the 5 pillars of Islamophobia. And also in his lecture slides included this sort of slide where he attempted to link the Israeli government, various British Jewish organisations, to the Labour and Conservative Party. And for me and for most members of Bristol JSOC, this was sort of grimly reminiscent of anti-Semitic tropes around Jew loyalty and various other things. And so we made a complaint to the University of Bristol. And 2 years later, we're still dealing with the same problem. A couple weeks ago, maybe last week, a video was released where David Miller basically called for an end to Zionism and accused Bristol JSOC of being pawns of the Israeli state and manufacturing claims of anti-Semitism because we don't want him to speak out against Palestinian rights. And this caused sort of a huge uproar on Twitter. And then I worked for the Bristol Tab, and we made a request for comment.
The newspaper on campus.
Yeah, so one of the student papers, and we made a request for comment for David Miller to sort of explain why he'd made those comments and if he regretted them and wanted to apologise to Jewish students. And he doubled down on those comments, went much further. And so after that, I was sort of a bit fed up as a Jewish student. And I, of my own volition, not inspired by the Israeli government whatsoever, decided to start a petition to get David Miller dismissed from Bristol University campus. It's now got, I think, 5,100 signatures. And then sort of after that, another video started to gain a bit of attention on Twitter where David Miller basically explained that Zionists use chicken soup to normalize Zionism in Muslim communities. And I was sort of inspired by these ludicrous comments to make a sort of silly video about the day in the life of an Israeli operative on Bristol Uni campus, where I sort of mocked and took the key out of some of David Miller's comments. And the video did unbelievably well. It's now got 70,000 views and was shared by Rachel Riley, which was pretty cool. So that's sort of all part of the campaign, I guess, to get David Miller dismissed for his horrendous comments. Yeah.
Well, let's unpick this a bit because, it takes a frenzied mind to accuse Jews of trying to curry favor by giving out chicken soup. But some of these, you've rightly made light of that one, but there are some of these allegations that are just horrific. When he calls for an end to Zionism, that means that Jews don't have the right to self-determination. He said the Zionist movement is the enemy, I'm quoting, the enemy of world peace and must be directly targeted. And he said that Jewish organizations, as you said, are one of the most important causes of Islamophobia today, quite ignoring the fact that there is so much interfaith work that happens as a result of British Jewish organizations. And of course, he's called Zionism a racist, violent, imperialist ideology premised on ethnic cleansing, which has no place in any society. He's very clear that anyone who supports the Jewish state, which is the vast majority of Jews, and indeed many others, have no place on campus. How does that make you and other Jewish students feel?
I think it makes a lot of Jewish students, especially Zionist Jewish students, incredibly uncomfortable. I think part of the most insidious elements of David Miller's attacks are the way he attempts to pit Jewish students on campus against Muslim and Arab students on campus, which is just incredibly unpleasant and an uncomfortable position to be put in as a Jewish student that just wants to promote interfaith and inclusivity and things like that. And it's sort of quite hurtful to have an ideology that's so close to so many Jewish students sort of targeted in this malicious and cynical way.
And let's talk about this trope of dual loyalty, because as you mentioned, he's gone after Jews, accusing them of mounting some organized campaign against him, which is led by the Israeli government. Yes, he's the one they're looking at right now. It's the most important thing that they have to deal with in Israel. And so why don't you give us an exclusive? Who do you report to? Is it the Israeli Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, the Foreign Minister? How much are they paying you? Tell us.
Unfortunately, I'm completely on my own at Bristol University campus. I'm not funded or sponsored by the Mossad. I don't think I'd make a particularly good agent.
Now, this trope is serious, though, isn't it? Because we just saw the Electronic Intifada, quite an extremist publication, write a hit piece on you, accusing you specifically of being shock horror, Zionist and pro-Israel. Well, Jews tend to be. But that's got to be uncomfortable. And I imagine also on social media, you've seen a lot of pushback.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I'm like flattered that the Electronic Intifada thinks that I am the Israeli lobby. It's quite a bold statement for them to make. But no, when I got the email about 48 hours ago from Azzo and Stanley, like at like 8 p.m. at night, he was like, I want a request for comment. You need to send it to me tomorrow morning. And I immediately sort of went into panic because I didn't really know what the article was going to look like. And it was more sort of the anticipation of what they could write about me. Or like if they attacked my family, that would be incredibly hurtful. Luckily, their main accusation was basically that I'm a Zionist, which is an accusation that I am a Zionist. I've never attempted to hide it. I think one of the quotations I used is from like a video made where I declared that I am a Zionist and used it as this sort of groundbreaking piece, but it's not really a secret. But no, the hate and vitriol I've received on Twitter some of it's been really unpleasant. There's sort of this quite nasty intersection of sexism and misogyny with anti-Semitism and racism, which is also very unpleasant. But, I've had a lot of great support from CST, from Jewish community organizations, from UJS, from my flatmates, from my family. So I know that it's all sort of confined online and that I'm fine.
Very unpleasant that this should be happening to you. And it's actually harassment. That's what it is. Professor Miller directs an organization that puts out conspiracy theories, I should mention. He's put out conspiracy theories about 9/11 and many other issues. And one of his colleagues on one of the groups that he runs, a working group on Syria propaganda and the media, they say, has actually shared a link that describes Kristallnacht as, and I'm quoting, when government officials were away, Jewish paid thugs went on a rampage in Berlin. Nazis were blamed and world opinion favored Jews, meaning they're pushing the idea that somehow one of the precursors to the Holocaust was actually a put-up job by Jews. It was set up. And these conspiracy theories, I mean, they aren't just crazy, they're dangerous, aren't they?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's incredibly hurtful, especially when people sort of take the Holocaust and try and turn it against or similar anti-Semitic instances and turn them against Jews and use them again to batter Jewish people. So
we saw a virtual rally take place with the hashtag Hate Off Campus. It was run by Bristol Jewish Society and UJS. 5,000 people joined it. We were proud to share it on Stand With Us social media as well. And one of the speakers who you mentioned, Rachel Riley, who I know has spoken admiringly of you and your activism, spoke so powerfully at the rally. I have a copy of her speech here. And one of the things that she said was David Miller's anti-Semitism doesn't just stay in the classroom. It whips up hatred on campus, it sows conspiracy theories online, and empowers trolls. Miller seeks to divide communities, and today we're saying loudly and clearly that we cannot and will not let hate win. What do you hope comes of all of this focus now?
I firstly just wanted to extend my thanks to Edward Isaacs, AJ Solomon, and Nina Friedman, who sort of led this campaign far more than I have, dealing with lots of behind the scenes with the University of Bristol. And I really hope that sort of action is taken on this issue. It's incredibly frustrating that there's been almost actually completely no communication between Jewish students, like the wider Jewish student body and the University of Bristol. I haven't heard anything in terms of what the university intends to do, any sort of statement of solidarity or just checking in on my mental health, because loads of Jewish organizations have, and I am completely fine, but it would just be nice to know that the university did care. So I just hope action is taken and swiftly.
And Professor Miller's mocked the Jewish concerns. He said criticism of Zionism or Israel hurts their feelings, makes them feel unsafe or uncomfortable in this space. Perhaps Professor Miller doesn't know that synagogues have to have security, Jewish schools and centers have security around the clock. And actually, Jewish security is something that David Miller has also attacked. He's attacked the communal security body, the CST. I guess he would prefer Jews to be unprotected. And this isn't a fringe issue. You know, Professor Miller isn't some fringe academic. There have been many people coming out on the hard left who claim to value equality and anti-racism, and yet we've seen them defend Professor Miller, haven't we?
So I'm not sure how other academics feel about either our campaign or about David Miller's comments. But I just want to make it clear to David Miller that, you know, I'm not complaining because his comments have shaken me to the core or hurt my feelings. I'm complaining because, you know, his conspiracy theory hogwash is just dangerous and should not be taught in a classroom.
That's an important thing to stress. You know, what's your final message to other students, Jewish or non-Jewish, outside of Bristol University who see anti-Semitism on their campus?
I think it's important to sort of stand up to anti-Semitism and know that there is an entire wonderful community backing you and supporting you throughout these sort of issues.
Excellent, and I hope more people do. You know, Bristol doesn't have to be represented by the repellent views of David Miller. It doesn't have to be a welcoming home for racism. Let's hope they do act. Now, as of recording this interview, as you've said, Bristol University have really committed to do nothing about Professor Miller or the real world or the online abuse that Jewish students are facing. You started your petition. We will share that petition, continue to share that petition, I should say, so that more people can sign it. And I know at Stand With Us, we're also happy to train Bristol academics and staff about the importance of the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. We have our head of UK academic issues, Professor David Stone. He'd be more than happy to come to university. So much of the community has come out. I have a letter here from the Board of Deputies of British Jews who are eager to engage and have engaged with Bristol University. It would be nice to see them engage back. Well done on all you've done. Stay strong. As you mentioned, so many Jews and non-Jewish allies stand with you in your bid to get and with your fellow students in your bid to get hate off campus. So all the best. Thanks for joining us, Sabrina.
Thank you so much.